Chapter 8. The children are carried off. Hook and his fiendish crew had taken the redskins by surprise, so the pirates had a mean advantage. Almost all the whole redskin tribe perished. Only the chief, Tiger Lily, and a few warriors managed to fight their way out. But Hook's work was not over yet. There was a hatred in his wicked heart for Peter Pan. Hook knew that if the boys heard the redskins' tom-tom, they would come out of hiding, thinking the redskins had won. So he signaled to Smee, who beat the tom-tom twice. "It's a redskin victory!" cried Peter. The boys cheered and got ready to leave the cave, saying a last goodbye to Peter. As they came up, one by one, each was caught by a pirate and thrust up like a chicken. Then the pirates bundled the children into little Wendy house and carried it on their shoulders to the Jolly Roger. Hook was left behind. He looked carefully at the trees and discovered that one of them was more hollow than the others. He could just squeeze in. He could not open the door, but he peered through a chink and saw Peter lying peacefully asleep on the great bed. For a moment his cold heart was touched. Then he spied Peter's medicine, which he could just reach. Hook always carried a deadly poison on him. Reaching through the chink, he poured 5 drops into Peter's medicine. Then he climbed out of the tree like some evil spirit, pulling his hat over his eyes. He wrapped his big cloak around him and stole away through the wood. Chapter 9. Do you believe in fairies? At 10 o'clock that night, Peter was awakened by a tiny knock on the door. It was Tinker Bell. He told him that Wendy and the boys had been captured and taken to the pirate ship. "I'll rescue them," cried Peter, grabbing his sword, "but first I must take my medicine." "No, no," cried Tinker Bell, "it's poisoned." "How could it be?" said Peter. "Nobody has been down here." He put the glass to his lips, but brave Tinker Bell had heard Hook talking to himself in the wood, and flew between Peter's mouth and the glass. She drank the poison herself in one gulp. "It was poisoned!" she cried. "I shall die!" She fluttered feebly to her tiny couch, and laid there gasping. Her light was getting weaker every moment. Soon it would go out. Tink was whispering something. Peter bent down to listen. "If any children believe in fairies," she gasped, "I might get better again." What could Peter do? Children everywhere were asleep. Then he thought those who were dreaming of Neverland, and then he called, "If you believe in fairies, clap your hands. Don't let Tink die." There was silence. Then there was a faint sound of clapping. It grew and grew until it filled the cave. Tink was saved. Her voice grew strong and she flashed around the room as merry as ever. "And now to rescue Wendy!" cried Peter. He came up through the trees with the moonlight wood. No one was about except for the crocodile, which never slept passing down below. Peter swore a terrible oath. "It's Hook or me this time." Chapter 10. The Fight on the Ship. Aboard the Jolly Roger, Hook had the boys dragged up from the hold. He promised to spare 2 of them if they would join the crew. "Would we be free subjects of the king?" asked John bravely. "You would have to swear down with the king," growled Hook. "Then we say no," was the answer. "Bring out the plank," roared Hook, "and fetch their mother." Wendy was brought up to see her boys walk to their death in the briny ocean. "Have you any last message for your children?" sneered Hook. Wendy spoke out firmly. "All your mothers hope you will die bravely like true Englishmen." "Tie her to the mast!" Hook screamed. The boys' eyes were on the plank. It was the last walk they could ever take. There was a grim silence, but it was broken by a strange sound, the tick, tick, tick of the crocodile. Hook collapsed with fear. He crawled along the deck, crying to his men, "Hide me! Hide me!" As the crew gathered round Hook, the boys looked over the side and saw not the crocodile, but Peter Pan. He was ticking, signaling to the boys not to give him away. He slipped aboard and ran to hide in the captain's cabin. When the ticking stopped, Hook grew brave again. He lined up the boys for a flogging and sent Jukes to his cabin for the cat-o'-nine-tails. Jukes entered the dark room. Suddenly there was a terrible scream. A blood-curdling crow followed. Jukes had been killed by Peter. 2 more pirates suffered the same fate. After this the crew lost their nerve, and no one else would venture forth. So Hook sent in the 8 boys. "Let them kill each other," he snarled. This was just what Peter wanted. He unlocked the boys' chains with the key he had found, and armed them with Hook's weapons. Then, while the pirates' backs were turned, they all crept out on deck. Peter freed Wendy, and wrapping himself in her cloak, took her place at the mast. Then he let out a terrific "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" The pirates, frightened out of their wits, spun around. "'Tis an unlucky ship," they cried, "that has a captain with a hook." "'Tis because we have a woman on board," said Hook quickly. "Fling her over to the other side." "No one can save you now, missy," said one of the kindred pirates sadly. "Here's one who can," cried Peter, throwing aside the cloak. "Peter Pan!" A great fight began. Swords and cutlasses clashed, and bodies tumbled into the water. Soon only Hook was left. His sword flashed like a circle of fire. "Leave him to me, boys," cried Peter. Although he was smaller, Peter was nimbler and soon wounded Hook. At the sight of his own blood, Hook turned pale and dropped his sword. He rushed to set fire to the powder machine and blew the ship up. But Peter bravely snatched the torch from his hand and threw it into the sea. Hook backed away from the menacing Peter and climbed on the bulwark. Peter Pan aimed a kick at him, and Hook lost his balance, slipping straight down to the sea. The crocodile, whose clock had run down at last, had silently followed Peter and was waiting patiently before. As Hook reached the water, the crocodile opened his jaws and finally had the rest of Hook for his supper.